My son-in-law wanted to move his parents into my new house in the woods, so I prepared a surprise. The first time I heard the word ours come out of my son-in-law's mouth, my coffee cup almost slipped from my hand. Not yours. Not even theirs. But ours, said with the casual confidence of a man who had already written the ending of a story he didn't own. I had bought the house in the woods, 3 acres of whispering pines, a ribbon of river at the edge of the property, and a cedar-scented cottage that creaked lovingly like old bones, for one simple, selfish reason. I was finally ready to live a quiet life that belonged to me. After 42 years of marriage, 39 of them happy, 3 of them a slow-burning negotiation, 18 years of parenting and 10 years of widowhood, I had reached that soft part of life that nobody prepares you for, the part where you realize that quiet is not loneliness but peace. My daughter Anna had married young. Too young, I'd thought at the time. 24, starry-eyed, and in love with a man named Kareem who could talk his way through any situation and charm every room he entered. He was handsome in a neat, reliable way, a manager at a mid-sized firm, always well-dressed, always polite, always so very certain. He also had a way of wearing entitlement like aftershave. At first I ignored it. People grow up, people soften. Marriage sands down rough edges, they say. But some edges cut deeper with time. When I told them about the house, Anna squealed down the phone. "Mama, that's amazing, you've wanted something like that forever." Kareem's response came a second later. "That's a strategic. Like I had just bought stock options, not a sun-soaked retreat with ivy crawling up the stone chimney and wild mushrooms popping up after every storm. I brushed the word aside like a fly. They came to see the house 2 weekends later. The trees were aflame with autumn, leaves spilling colour like secrets. I baked a peach cobbler. The kitchen still smelled faintly of the previous owner's pipe tobacco, which mingled strangely with cinnamon. Anna walked around with sparkling eyes, running her fingers along countertops, stepping out on the wraparound porch to breathe in the crisp air. Kareem was quiet. Too quiet. He inspected things, the water heater, the shed, the garage. His hand lingered on the sturdy banister like it was a financial asset. "So," he said eventually, smiling in that way people do when they are about to say something you won't like. "Have you thought about what happens when, you know, you don't want to keep up with all this anymore?" "I plan to die in this house," I said cheerfully, preferably while reading by the fire. He laughed like I'd made a joke. I hadn't. That night after dinner, Anna helped me wash dishes while Kareem took a business call on the porch. Her voice lowered to that whisper daughters use when their husbands are near. "Mama, he actually really likes it here." "That's nice. And she hesitated, "there's something we wanted to ask." I felt that word we like a draft under the door. "You know how his parents' lease is ending soon," she continued. "They've been struggling with rent increases, and they're not getting any younger. We were thinking maybe they could stay here with you." I stopped drying the plate. "With me? Just for a while." "How long is a while?" "You know, until they get settled." The plate felt suddenly heavy. Her eyes pleaded, "Mama, don't say no right away, just think about it, okay?" I nodded, but inside something cold had settled. Because this wasn't her idea, not really. And I already knew what Kareem was thinking. Not can they stay. But they should stay. Because the house wasn't mine anymore. It was ours. The final push came a week later. We had a family meeting at their apartment, which always felt more like a conference room than a home. Kareem was ready, he had spreadsheets, he had bullet points, he had reasons. Economically, he began, steepling his fingers, this is the most efficient solution. Mama Gull and Baba can have their own floor, we'll help with groceries, and one day, naturally, the house will pass to Anna and me, so it makes sense to plan ahead. He said it smoothly, like the conclusion was obvious. Like my life was a pre-written will. I listened. Quietly. Calmly. When he finished, I smiled. That's a very organized plan, I said, but I'm afraid the answer is no. The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. Anna's face fell, Kareem blinked, startled. No, he repeated like he was unfamiliar with the word. No. He cleared his throat. May I ask why? Because, I said gently, this house is not an investment strategy. It is my home, and I have no intention of sharing it with anyone I did not personally invite. His jaw tightened. Their family. They're your family, I corrected softly. Anna looked like she wanted to cry. Mama, please. I love you, I said, taking her hand, but this is my boundary. Boundaries, I've learned, sound selfish to those who benefit from your lack of them. And Kareem had benefited for a long time. The meeting ended awkwardly. He was polite, distant, overly controlled. But anger has a way of settling behind the eyes. I saw it there. The calls started. First from Anna. They're just looking at options, Mama. Then from Kareem, in that voice coated with sugar. I just want to revisit our conversation. Then from his mother, her tone oozing guilt and sweetness. We would never be a burden. I repeated the same sentence each time. I'm sorry, but the answer is still no. And with each refusal, I felt my spine grow a little stronger. But boundaries have consequences. The visits slowed. The laughter faded. I could feel the shift in the air. Anna became quieter around me, stuck between loyalty and love. Kareem became colder. He looked at me like I was a stubborn obstacle, instead of the woman who once stitched his shirt buttons and fed him soup when he caught the flu. And then something interesting happened. He stopped arguing. Stopped calling. Stopped pushing. Almost overnight he became warm again, polite, thoughtful, accommodating. Which would have been a relief, if it hadn't been so obviously calculated. Because when powerful people go quiet, it is rarely because they've surrendered. It is because they are planning. The surprise arrived on a rainy afternoon. Anna called me, breathless. Mama, Kareem booked us all a weekend up at your place, me, him, his parents. He thought it would be nice for everyone to reconnect. We're already on the way. My hand tightened around the phone. Already on the way. Without asking. Without checking. Without respecting. I looked outside at the rain, pelting the pines like silver needles. So, this was the plan. Casual occupancy, gradual normalization. Boxes carried in slowly like ivy creeping over stone. Before long, rooms claimed, cupboards filled. Lives absorbed into mine until resistance looked unreasonable. I could have argued. I could have yelled. I could have said turn around right now. But instead I felt something slow and deliberate settle inside me. A different kind of strength. The kind that doesn't shout. The kind that prepares. You're welcome to come, I said calmly. I'll be ready. And I was. Just not in the way Kareem expected. They arrived just after dark, headlights cut through the mist, doors slammed, voices rose. I opened the door with a warm smile. Welcome. Kareem's parents greeted me sweetly. They were polite, tired-looking, not villains, just vessels being steered. Kareem carried a suitcase inside. Then a second. Then a third. These are just for the weekend, he said casually, not meeting my eye. Of course, I smiled. I had laid the table beautifully. Roast chicken, fresh bread, honey-glazed carrots. The house smelled like memory and comfort. We ate. We laughed. Kareem relaxed. He thought the game was already won. After dinner, I stood up. So, I said lightly, before everyone gets too comfortable, let's take a tour. There's something I want to show you. Curiosity flickered. I led them down the hallway to the spare rooms. Each door had a freshly printed sign on it. Not guest room. Not Baba's room. But these. Therapy room Tuesdays and Fridays. Private writing studio, no entry. Locked storage, alarmed. Kareem frowned. What's this? I've rented the spare rooms, I said pleasantly. To professionals who need private space in the woods, signed the contracts this afternoon, long-term leases, they'll be here starting next week. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. You rented your own rooms? Yes. To strangers? Yes. Why? Because people kept trying to move into them. Silence. His parents looked at the floor, embarrassed. Anna stared at me wide-eyed, but then something flickered in her gaze. Something like relief. Kareem swallowed. You should have discussed this with us. I tilted my head. Why? Because, he said tightly, we're family. And that, I said softly, is precisely why I didn't. He flushed. I continued gently. I love you all, but this home is not a solution to your problems. It is not a shared resource. It is not ours. It is mine. And the sooner everyone accepts that, the less painful this will be. His mother finally spoke. We never meant to impose. I touched her arm. I know you are welcome as guests, always, but not as residents. The atmosphere shifted. The message was crystal clear. There would be no gradual move-in, no quiet takeover, no blurred lines. This boundary had bricks. And a lock. And a very friendly, very firm owner standing behind it. They stayed the weekend. Politely. Awkwardly. Suitcases remained zipped. Kareem barely spoke to me. But Anna did. Late Sunday afternoon, while the others packed the car, she came to sit beside me on the porch. The rain had stopped, leaving the world freshly washed. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? For not stopping it sooner, for letting him push, for letting myself get swept into it. I squeezed her hand. Marriage is a current, sweetheart. Sometimes you don't notice when you're drifting. She leaned her head on my shoulder like she did when she was small. I think we need to talk, really talk about boundaries, about decisions, about how much he expects. That's between you and him, I said gently, but I'm always here. She nodded. A bird called softly from the trees. Kareem came out a minute later. He looked at me for a long moment, not angry anymore, just thoughtful. Then he said something I didn't expect. I underestimated you. I smiled, most people do. He gave a small, reluctant nod. And for the first time, I saw not a man trying to control his world, but a man who had finally met something immovable. They drove away soon after. The house exhaled. The pines whispered. And I sat there, wrapped in a shawl and a strange, fierce peace. Not because I'd won, but because I had chosen myself. Without apology. Without guilt. Without fear. Moral of the story. Boundaries do not make you cruel. They make you clear. And the people who truly love you will learn to respect the walls you build, not because they keep others out, but because they protect the peace you worked so hard to earn.